In this session of The Harmony of Religions, we will explore how religious imagination mediates the human experience of the sacred. Through the study of archetypal symbolism, or universal images and patterns found across cultures, we will examine stories of creation, the flood, heroic quests, and visions of the end. These narratives offer insights into the collective psyche and human potential. They reveal how imagination serves as a bridge between the divine and the human and helps communities and individuals articulate their place in the cosmos and participate in the mysteries of existence. In this survey, we will see how these archetypes transform character and reveal sacred truth that transcends time and place. Swami Vivekananda describes the Hindu concept of cyclical progression, where all of existence moves in waves of rise and fall. The universe, nations, and spiritual life follow this rhythm: ascension to a peak, descent into a decline, and eventual resurgence with greater strength. This perpetual motion is reflected in history, human affairs, and religious evolution. Key to these cycles are messengers, extraordinary individuals who rise at the crest of societal and spiritual waves. These figures, prophets, world thinkers, and incarnations of God, both shape and are shaped by their times. Each contributes uniquely to a larger sacred harmony, where no single race or nation monopolizes the world's purpose. He says, by studying the lives of all these great messengers, we find that each, as it were, was destined to play a part and a part only, that the harmony consists in the sum total and not in one note. As in the life of races, no race is born to alone enjoy the world. Each race has a part to play in this divine harmony of nations. Each race has its mission to perform, its duty to fulfill. The sum total is the great harmony. The perfect man, the free man, the God man, who has gone beyond the laws of nature and transcended everything, who has no more to go through this process of evolution, through birth and death. That man is called the Christ man by the Christians, and the Buddha man by the Buddhists, and the free by the yogis. That perfect man who is at one end of the chain of evolution was involved in the cell of the protoplasm, which is at the other end of the same chain. The whole of this life, which slowly manifests itself, evolves itself from the protoplasm to the perfected human being, the incarnation of God on earth. The whole of this series is but one life, and the whole of this manifestation must have been involved in that very protoplasm. This whole life, this very God on earth, was involved in it and slowly came out, manifesting itself slowly, slowly, slowly. Humankind's early ape-like ancestor came down from the trees around 3.5 million years ago. They began making crude stone tools around 2.5 million years ago and learned how to control fire 1 million years ago. Evidence of the modern form appears around 130,000 years ago, and a migration out of Africa occurred between 75,000 and 50,000 years ago. The oldest cave paintings of abstract geometrical shapes are more than 45,000 years old, and figurative art depicting flora and fauna develops around 35,000 years ago. Asiatic peoples crossed into the Americas over 25,000 years ago, until the land bridge between the continents was submerged by rising sea levels around 13,000 years ago. Cultivation of edible plants and domestication of animals for food began around 12,000 years ago. The ancient city of Jericho dates to around 10,000 years ago. Writing appeared only within the last 6,000 years in Mesopotamia, Egypt, China, and Mesoamerica. Religious imagination often finds its most vivid expression through individuals with an extraordinary intensity of feeling, experts in spiritual experience and mediation. Across cultures, these figures, known as shamanas or spiritual doctors, act as bridges between the human and the divine. Through techniques of ecstasy, they enter altered states of consciousness, employing song, dance, poetic language, and symbolic rituals to connect their communities and individuals to sacred truth and cosmic rhythms. Shamanism exemplifies this specialization, where sickness is seen as a loss of soul, a disharmony with the cosmos. The shaman's role is both healer and guide, restored and consecrated through crises that imitate death and rebirth. With tools such as drums, costumes, and ceremonial rites, they incarnate a superhuman presence, serving as stewards of psychic integrity. They preserve ancient wisdom, transmit hidden knowledge, and offer transformative experiences, helping their communities and individuals transcend the human condition and encounter the real. The historian Oswald Spengler writes, "What then is world history? Certainly an ordered presentation of the past, an inner postulate, the expression of a capacity for feeling form. But a feeling for form, however definite, is not the same as form itself. No doubt we feel world history, experience it, and believe that it is to be read, just as a map is read. But even today, it is only partial shapes of it that we know, and not the shape of it which is the mirror image of our own inner life." The historian Arnold Toynbee rejects the mistakes of method which ignore the mythological clue. He suggests the rise and fall of civilizations is the wheel which carries forward the chariot of religion. He wrote, "Religion is one of the essential faculties of human nature. Mankind must answer important questions in which science has nothing to say. There can be no unity of mankind without the participation of God. How long will Western souls find it bearable to go on living without religion?" Marcia Eliade explicates a difference between the sacred and profane. The cyclical nature of existence contrasts with linear time. This view reflects a spiritual rhythm, a meaningful order marked by a perennial motion of descent and ascent, and the periodic regeneration and restoration of the world. Rituals allow for participation in sacred time, transcending historical time and offering individuals a transformative experience through a hierophany, the sacred revealing itself in the world, theophany, the appearance of a deity, and apotheosis, the climax of development in consecration or deification. In China, the creation myth of Pangu tells of an ancient being who awakens within a cosmic egg, perfectly balancing light and dark. Using his axe, Pangu splits the egg, forming the heavens and the earth, and holding them apart until his death, when his body becomes the natural elements. In India, Brahma hatches from a golden egg, representing the seed of all creation, which is floating on a primordial ocean. Upon splitting the egg, Brahma forms heaven and earth. Similarly, in Persia, the omniscient Ahura Mazda, or wise lord, creates the world from the shell of a cosmic egg formed out of chaos. In Egypt, the sun god Atum emerges from an egg floating on the chaotic ocean and brings light to the darkness. In Greek mythology, Phanes hatches from a silver egg laid by time and fate, giving birth to the earth and sky. According to the ancient Egyptians, Thoth laid the golden egg on the primordial ocean. He also invented languages, writing, mathematics, and astronomy. Seshat, the mistress of the library, was responsible for record keeping, overseeing land allocations, tax assessments, conducting censuses, and serving as a priestess for coronations and funerary rites, ensuring the orderly and divine management of Egypt's affairs. The pharaoh, or great house, was not merely a sacred king promoting stability and prosperity, but also refers to the court of scribes and priests who performed rituals to defend the territory, administer the agriculture, and uphold justice. Swami Vivekananda said, "In the history of nations, the government at the beginning has always been in the hands of the priests. All the learning also has proceeded from the priests." End quote. In the ancient world, priestly scribes were not only record keepers, but also powerful figures in society, playing roles that were both temple guardian and granary supervisor. Their craft was a mission to dominate nature. Their ability to manipulate language and symbols was seen as a sacred power, enabling them to shape the future and influence the course of history. As poets, critics, and counselors, scribes played vital roles in administration and diplomacy, defining the laws and decisions that govern the land. In the temples, they acted as spiritual intermediaries, serving as the voice of the gods. Their work was a form of divine impersonation, as they embodied the sacred king and spiritual chief through words, gestures, and performance. In the satire of the trades, a father tells his son, "Be a wordsmith, that you may be strong. I shall make you love books more than your mother, and I shall place their excellence before you. It is greater than any office. There is nothing like it on earth. Look, there is no job without a boss, except for the scribe. He is the boss. Be serious and great as to your worth. Do not speak secret matters. See, I have placed you on the path of God." The traditions of the Abrahamic descent all attribute creation to a divine spoken command. In the Hebrew Bible or Old Testament, the earth was formless, covered in darkness, and then God spoke over the primordial water, saying, "Let there be light," and light appeared, separating the darkness. God saw that the light was good, and named the light day, and the darkness night. In the Greek Bible, or New Testament, the first 5 verses of the Gospel according to John are so poorly translated in English so as to be meaningless. The King James Version of the text famously says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Aside from being a run-on sentence, this also translates 2 Greek words, theon and theos, with the same English word, causing confusion. A better translation would read, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word is with the God, or the poet, and the Word is God. This was in nature before the God, or the poet." Everybody through God exists, and nobody exists without God. In God is life, and the light of God is the life of the anthropod. And the light in the darkness shines, though the darkness does not know it. The Quran, the revelation of the angel Gabriel to the prophet Muhammad, glorifies the pen as a divine instrument of knowledge. The 96th chapter says, "Recite in the name of your Lord who created mankind from a clot of congealed blood. Recite, and your Lord is most generous, who taught by the pen, taught mankind what they did not know." In ancient Mesopotamia, the Apkallu were revered as the mythical equivalents of scribal gods, akin to the Umanu, or literary craftsmen, who held great responsibility in maintaining the cultural and intellectual life of the kingdom. These Apkallu are often depicted with the faces of humans, yet their forms may also incorporate features of birds or fish, symbolizing their superhuman nature. As spiritual and intellectual protectors, they are also often associated with the care and stewardship of trees and the agriculture in general. They are guardians of wisdom, particularly of ethical integrity, the natural sciences, and literary arts. Thus, the Apkallu's role extended beyond knowledge preservation. They served as defenders of the king and territory, ensuring that both the ruler's authority and the kingdom's morality and prosperity were secure. Their teachings also included lessons on sexuality and the secret of immortality. In Mesopotamian society, knowledge was highly guarded and secretive, especially in the royal court. The king's most sensitive information, political and religious, was strictly safeguarded and reserved for a select circle of trusted individuals. This exclusive group, often part of a secret council, was composed of those loyal to the king or pivotal to his plans. The phrase, "an expert may show another expert, but a non-expert shall not see it," describes the restricted access to secret lore. Esoteric knowledge passed down through generations was deliberately concealed from the public. This hidden wisdom, often considered more sacred due to its secrecy, was key to the realm's governance and spiritual guidance. Only a few elite scholars, known as Ashipu, masters of wisdom, were entrusted with the secrets of the scribal craft, astrology, and divination. Writing was closely linked to the cycles of nature and especially farming. In the Tablet of Destinies, the Mesopotamian gods emerge from a primordial watery abyss, shaping the cosmos and crafting humanity from clay. Humankind's duty was to cultivate the land and offer sustenance to the gods. However, due to human disobedience and noise, the gods sent a great flood, sparing only the righteous Zasudra, who was warned by the Lord of the world to build a boat to survive. After the flood, Zasudra's family repopulated the earth, marking a new beginning for civilization. The Song of the Pickaxe emphasizes the importance of agricultural tools, particularly the hoe, in sustaining life and civilization. The hoe, symbolic of prosperity and labor, is portrayed as the instrument that nurtures the land and builds cities. In the Garden of the Gods, grain and sheep are central to the wealth of the land, fulfilling divine commands and securing the sustenance of the community. The opening verses of the Tao Te Ching describe the power of the word and the ineffability of truth. The way that can be spoken of is not the eternal way. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless was the beginning of heaven and earth. The named was the mother of the many creatures. Always rid yourself of desires to witness the secrets, yet allow yourself desires to witness the manifestations. The two are the same, but change in name as they come forth. Being the same, they are called mysteries. Mystery upon mystery, the gateway of the manifold secrets. In Chinese mythology, Nuwa, the beautiful spiral, repaired the heavens after a war between the gods disrupted cosmic balance, tilting the earth and causing a great flood. She restored life by shaping clay figures into living beings. Fuxi, the great bright one, introduced the essentials of civilization and foundations of human culture: animal domestication, cooking, fishing, hunting, marriage, music, and writing. The Epic of Gilgamesh records a catastrophic flood sent by the gods to destroy humankind for their cacophony of noise. Utnapishtim, forewarned by the Lord of the world, builds a great ark to preserve life. The storm rages for 7 days, and even the gods took fright at the deluge. When the waters recede, Utnapishtim offers a sacrifice, and the gods, moved by hunger, bless his survival. Gilgamesh learns of this history in his quest for the herb of immortality. He saw what was secret, discovered what was hidden. He brought back a tale of the time before the deluge. Gilgamesh restored the temples destroyed by the deluge and set in place for the people the rights of the cosmos. The poem depicts a transformative journey similar to the path via mystica, from base instincts to awakened consciousness, through trials that refine the character and lead to union with the divine. Swami Vivekananda says, "This is the one fact that comes out of every scripture and of every mythology, that the man that is a degeneration of what he was." Side by side with this, we find the story of the deluge everywhere. That story itself is a proof that this present age is held to be a corruption of a former age by every religion. It went on becoming more and more corrupt until the deluge swept away a large portion of mankind, and again the ascending series began. You are all aware of the story of the deluge in the Old Testament. The same story was current among the ancient Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Chinese, and the Hindus. Swami Vivekananda said, Manu, a great ancient sage, was praying on the bank of the Ganga when a little minnow came to him for protection, and he put it into a pot of water he had before him. What do you want? Asked Manu. The little minnow declared he was pursued by a bigger fish and wanted protection. Manu carried the little fish to his home, and in the morning he had become as big as the pot and said, I cannot live in this pot any longer. Manu put him in a tank, and the next day he was as big as the tank and declared he could not live there any more. So Manu had to take him to a river, and in the morning the fish filled the river. Then Manu put him in the ocean, and the fish declared, Manu, I am the creator of the universe. I have taken this form to come and warn you that I will deluge the world. You build an ark, and in it put a pair of every kind of animal, and let your family enter the ark. And there will project out of the water my horn. Fasten the ark to it, and when the deluge subsides, come out and people the earth. So the world was deluged, and Manu saved his own family and two of every kind of animal and seeds of every plant. When the deluge subsided, he came and peopled the world, and we are all called man because we are progeny of Manu. The motif of the deluge occurs across cultures, exemplifying themes of cosmic purification and renewal. In Ovid's Metamorphosis, humanity's corruption through impiety and lawlessness prompts Zeus to flood the earth, sparing only Deucalion and Pyrrha, whose virtue allows them to repopulate a purified world. In Aztec mythology, humans become arrogant and disrespect the gods, leading the god of smoke and mirrors to unleash a flood that destroys them and resets the cosmic order. Similarly, Norse mythology foretells Ragnarok, a cataclysmic series of events triggered by greed, discord, and broken kinship bonds. During the final battle, a great flood cleanses the earth for the emergence of a renewed world. Across these myths, floods symbolize the dissolution of moral decay and the restoration of justice, reflecting humanity's cyclical journey from corruption to redemption. The Masonic project supposedly preserves a pre-Diluvian original knowledge corrupted, lost, and partially recovered. The three ranks of apprentice, fellowcraft, and master give lessons in character transformation, civic duty, and classical philosophy reconciled with theology in an exhaustive account of symbolism and religious myth. God makes visible to men his will in events, an obscure text written in a mysterious language. Men make their translations of it forthwith hasty, incorrect, full of faults, omissions, and misreadings. To study and seek to interpret correctly the symbols of the universe is the work of the sage and philosopher. It is to decipher the writing of God and penetrate into his thoughts. Masonry, successor of the mysteries, still follows the ancient manner of teaching. Her symbols are the instruction she gives. The lectures are endeavors, often partial and one-sided, to interpret these symbols. He who would become an accomplished Mason must not be content merely to hear or even to understand the lectures. He must, aided by them, and they having, as it were, marked out the way for him, study, interpret, and develop these symbols for himself. All religious expression is symbolism. The earliest instruments of education were symbols, and they and all other religious forms differed and still differ according to external circumstances and imagery and according to differences of knowledge and mental cultivation. We hold that God has so ordered matters in this beautiful and harmonious but mysteriously governed universe that one great mind after another will arise from time to time, as such are needed, to reveal to men the truths that are wanted and the amount of truth that can be borne. The Mason believes that God has arranged this glorious but perplexing world with a purpose and on a plan. Initiation does not change. We find it again and again and always the same through all the ages. Joseph Campbell argued that the three-stage plot of the hero's journey is a universal mythic pattern. He describes the outline of separation, initiation, return as thus. A hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered, and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. According to Campbell's model, each of these stages can be further subdivided. The hero may at first refuse the call to adventure, or he may encounter a supporting cast of characters who offer special training and tools that will be useful in the quest. The hero crosses the limits of his known world on a path of tasks, temptations, and ordeals. He travels to unfamiliar and threatening places where he encounters hostile enemies. He may fail in some of his trials and may lose quest companions. In this strange, faraway place, he will overcome danger and win a prize, sometimes a woman, but more often a treasure that revives society and renews the world. For example, the pattern as applied in the epic poetry of early medieval literature can be mapped as the cave to the dragon to the gold. Campbell's monomyth can also be adapted to feminist theory by a metaphor of the womb or cocoon, enclosure, metamorphosis, emergence. This mythic plot is not strictly a method for literary interpretation. Heroic stories are examples for an individual's transition through life stages. Anthropologist Arnold van Gennep proposes a similar model for rites of passage. For instance, childhood attitudes such as dependence, ignorance, obedience, fear, and shame must be transformed into mature attitudes of friendship, generosity, compassion, courtesy, and intelligence. A boy is taken from his mother, severely tested in the wilderness by the elders, then returns to the village as a man. The process can be described as preliminal threshold, liminal transition, post-liminal integration. Victor Turner observed the pattern in sociological changes and suggested that transgressions of social norms lead to collective drama, then revision of values. This process can be described as disruption, crisis, remedy. Lastly, the hero's journey is comparable to the tripartite alchemical symbolism for evolution of character and the perfection of the cosmos, negredo, albedo, rubedo. In the blackening or dark night, there is a descent, tragic reversal, and chaotic destruction. This is followed by whitening in lunar reflection, purification, change of appearance, and reconciliation of conflicting opposites. The sequence ends at the red dawn and the permanent spiritual transformation of the individual or microcosm, the social relationships or mesocosm, and nature, the macrocosm. Swami Vivekananda says, the earliest idea is that a man, when he dies, is not annihilated. Something lives and goes on living even after the man is dead. Perhaps it would be better to compare the three most ancient nations, the Egyptians, the Babylonians, and the ancient Hindus, and take this idea from all of them. With the Egyptians and the Babylonians, we find a sort of soul idea, that of a double. Inside this body, according to them, there is another body which is moving and working here. And when the outer body dies, the double gets out and lives on for a certain length of time. But the life of the double is limited by the preservation of the outer body. End quote. The weighing of the heart was the key funerary ritual in ancient Egypt, representing the final judgment of the deceased's soul. After death, the individual's heart was placed on one side of a scale, and on the other, a single feather of Mot, the goddess of truth, order, and justice. The deceased's heart was weighed to determine whether they had lived a life of virtue or sin. If the heart was lighter than the feather, it signified purity and a life lived in accordance with Mot's principles, and the soul was deemed worthy of entering the field of reeds, an idyllic afterlife. However, if the heart was heavier, burdened by the weight of wrongdoings, it would be devoured by Ammit, a fearsome creature with the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus, preventing the soul from reaching eternal peace and joy. In ancient Greek mythology, the afterlife was determined by three deities. The judgment took place in Hades, where the soul was assessed and assigned to one of three destinations. The asphotometos, for those who lived lives of mediocrity or indifference, such as the apathetic and doubtful. The land was foggy, dull, and gloomy, a place for wandering souls. Tartarus, a dark prison, housed the most heinous of criminals, murderers, traitors, and those guilty of severe moral transgressions. It was a place of torment, despair, and eternal punishment. The Elysian Fields, also known as the Isles of the Blessed, was a paradise for the virtuous, a lush garden of pleasure and peace. In this realm of beauty, souls enjoyed leisure and they were honored for their bravery and righteousness. In Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy, the masterpiece of Catholic literature, the afterlife is divided into three realms. Inferno is a place of eternal punishment for the damned. Souls who succumb to immorality, hatred, and violence suffer in a labyrinth of torment, their punishments tailored to the nature of their sins. In Purgatorio, souls are purified. Here, those burdened by pride, envy, anger, sloth, stinginess, greed, and lust must perform penance, remedying their sins before they can ascend to the realm of the blessed. Finally, in Paradiso, the soul is bathed in divine love and light, rising to the highest spheres of heaven and union with God. The day of judgment at the end of historical time appears in multiple religious traditions, each with its own vision of the fate of the soul. Zoroastrianism, the final battle between good and evil, culminates in the resurrection of the dead, followed by the judgment of souls. The righteous are rewarded with eternal paradise, while the wicked face destruction. Judaism anticipates the coming of the Messiah, who will establish a just and peaceful world marked by the resurrection of the dead. Similarly, Christianity speaks of the return of the Christ during a time of troubles, and the dead are resurrected, the righteous ascend to heaven, and the wicked face eternal punishment. In Islam, the moral decline of humanity gives rise to the Imam Mahdi, who will lead the righteous to paradise while punishing the wicked. Hinduism envisions the arrival of the Kalki avatar, who will restore order by ending the dark age of ignorance, hatred, and greed. Buddhism predicts that when truth is lost, the future Buddha will guide humanity into a new golden age of peace and wisdom. In many religious traditions, the journey through death and the afterlife is seen as a process of liberation from attachment and illusion. According to the Tibetan Buddhists, in the waking consciousness of ordinary life, individuals remain attached to their false identities and sensory experiences which obscure their true nature. Meditation and mindfulness practices are seen as remedies for this suffering, offering the possibility of detaching from these illusions. During dreams, symbolic projections arise representing the mind's unreal perception of existence and giving a clue to the nature of the afterlife transmigration. At death, the physical and mental elements dissolve, allowing the consciousness to transcend its worldly attachments. This dissolution leads to the appearance of emanations of light, radiant visions, and insight into the true nature of existence. In this moment, the soul faces a choice. It may either return to the cycle of rebirth, driven by past karma, or achieve freedom, liberated from the cycle of reincarnation. Vedanta means the end of knowledge, or the goal of wisdom and intelligence, which is the perception of God. Sri Ramakrishna said, "Find God. That is the only purpose in life. Be illumined." His disciple, Swami Vivekananda, said, "Each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, by one or more or all of these, and be free." This is the whole of religion. Doctrines or dogmas or rituals or books or temples or forms are but secondary details. A similar program was proposed by St. Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuit order, in the Principles and Fundamentals of Spiritual Exercises. He wrote, "Man is created to praise, reverence, and serve God our Lord, and by this means to save his soul. The other things on the face of the earth are created for man to help him in attaining the end for which he is created. Hence, man is to make use of them in as far as they help him in the attainment of his end, and he must rid himself of them as far as they prove a hindrance to him. Our one desire and choice should be what is more conducive for the end for which we are created." Aldous Huxley, the co-founder of the Trabuco College of Prayer, defines the highest common factor and four fundamental tenets of the minimum working hypothesis of the perennial philosophy as thus: There is a Godhead, which is the unmanifest principle of all manifestation. It is simultaneously transcendent and immanent. It is possible for humans to love, know, and become identical to Godhead. Unity with Godhead is the final end and purpose of human life. There is a law to obey if this end is to be reached. Dr. Carl G. Jung describes the same idea from a psychological perspective. He writes, "Man's consciousness was created to the end that it may recognize its descent from a higher unity, pay due and careful regard to this source, execute its commands intelligently and responsibly, and thereby afford the psyche as a whole the optimum degree of life and development." Richard Maurice Buck proposes that beyond a simple animal existence and the uniquely human faculties of reason, imagination, and foresight is the next stage of evolution in religious experience. He suggests that authentic mysticism can be distinguished from psychosis by extracting features from the lives of exemplary figures, such as the age, time, and place of illumination, spontaneous joy, increase of personal charm, intellectual and moral elevation, greater capacity of will, loss of fear, and a sense of immortality. William James elaborates on a comparable standard in the varieties of religious experience. He writes, summing up in the broadest possible way the characteristics of the religious life as we have found them, it includes the following beliefs: that the visible world is part of a more spiritual universe from which it draws its chief significance, that the union or harmonious relation with that higher universe is our true end, that prayer or inner communion with the spirit thereof, be that spirit God or law, is a process wherein work is really done and spiritual energy flows in and produces effects, psychological or material, within the phenomenal world. Religion also includes the following psychological characteristics: a new zest, which adds itself like a gift to life and takes the form either of lyrical enchantment or of appeal to earnestness and heroism, an assurance of safety, and a temper of peace, and in relation to others, a preponderance of loving affections. In the classic text on mysticism, Evelyn Underhill writes, "We are all the kindred of the mystics. Strange and far away from us though they seem, they are not cut off from us by some impassable abyss. They belong to us, the giants, the heroes of our race." She offers 5 stages of the mystical way, from awakening of self to purgation of self to illumination, then the dark night of the soul, and finally unity. She proposes 4 tests for fulfillment of an innate capacity. Realization is practical, engaging the whole person. Realization is not concerned with exploring or changing the world. The reality is encountered as a personal object of love. Unity results in a new state of consciousness and aesthetic horizon. Swami Vivekananda suggests that all religions feature a combination of principles, mythology, and ritual. His ideal religion unites science, philosophy, and poetry. He said, "The artistic faculty was highly developed in Sri Ramakrishna, and he used to say that without this faculty, none can be truly spiritual. Meditation, comes by a process of imagination. The same faculty that we employ in dreams and thoughts, namely imagination, will also be the means by which we arrive at truth. Imagination will lead you to the highest, even more rapidly and easily than reasoning. Imagination, properly employed, is our greatest friend. It goes beyond reason and is the only light that takes us everywhere.